Thank you, Helga. I would like to thank the organizers. Thank you for having invited me to this ICORN General Assembly. My name is Zineb El Rhazoui, and I am a journalist at Charlie Hebdo. I am a former ICORN guest in the city of Ljubljana, and Yasmina Rihar is here. I was very happy to see her and to remember this experience in this beautiful city of Ljubljana. So I am a former guest, but I still feel a member of this big family, this big ICORN family. I am here today to try to talk about my experience and answer the question, does it worth to pay the price for the freedom of expression? Actually, I joined Charlie Hebdo team. I started to work with them as a freelancer in 2011 during the Arab Spring. At this time, I was still in Morocco, where I was facing some harassment and threats from the regime. So this is why I had to leave the country, and this is why Ljubljana offered me refuge. But during this year that I spent in Ljubljana, I was working with Charlie Hebdo as a reporter, as a journalist, as a columnist, but I also have written a book with the former director of Charlie Hebdo, Charb, who have been killed last 7th January. This book was an answer to those who were threatening us, to those who were accusing us of racism, because we were just treating Islam just like any other religion in France, treating it with a sense of humor, treating it with this old good tradition of satiric press that we have in France since the French Revolution. So I have written this book in Ljubljana. I was only inspired by Islamic sources. I had to add nothing on the Prophet's life, because as it was related by the Muslim sources, it was extraordinary enough. But Shab chose to draw the Prophet with his classical drawings, you know, the small yellow man, which was a metaphor, because of course when you draw the Prophet Muhammad like that, or when you draw anyone like that, you don't pretend he is really like that. You just create a metaphor to depict someone and to make your story living and funny. I have to ask, would it really be different if we put a question mark to replace this yellow small man? I think it's not really different, it's a metaphor. So I joined Charlie Hebdo as a permanent member of the team the 1st January 2013. I moved from Ljubljana to Paris, and I started working with this other family, a family that faced a catastrophe last January, and we lost 8 members of this family. I started working with Charlie Hebdo in a funny place, in a jokey atmosphere, with a sense of humor that we try to keep in every tragic event, and whenever the news are very serious. And so this is, we were working in that old tradition of humor in France, but it didn't please everyone. So last 7th January, 2 men called the Kouachi brothers, Sherif and Said Kouachi, came to the newspaper and just executed 12 people. Among those 12 people, 8 were my colleagues, and 4 others were 2 policemen. One of them was the bodyguard, was Shab's bodyguard, because Shab was living under protection because of his freedom of speech. and another policeman called Ahmed Mrabat. He was just passing here with his bike, and he didn't even know why he was killed. Another man called Frédéric Poisson was an employee to clean the building, and he was killed while it was his first day working in this building, and he didn't even know that Charlie Hebdo was in this building. Another man called Michel Renaud, he was visiting Charlie Hebdo for the first time. He was a friend of my former colleague, also killed, Jean Cabu, one of the greatest cartoonists in France. So this man was just here to say hi to the team and to talk with Jean Cabu about one festival he wants to organize in Clermont-Ferrand, a small city in France, and he was killed that day. We have also, I still have 3 colleagues who are now in the hospital, who are still in the hospital, doing their best to recover their capacity to walk normally, to eat normally, or just to have a normal physical, to be normal again one day. Those who did that, they thought that we deserved that. They thought that our team deserved to be killed because we have depicted the Prophet Muhammad. Actually, I have to tell them, okay, let's say that we deserve that as a Charlie Hebdo team, but what about Frédéric Poisson? What about Franck Barin-Solaro, Sharp's bodyguard? What about Ahmed Mrabat, who actually have nothing to do with us? What about Michel Renaud? Those people have drawn no one, and they have been killed. My colleagues, Tinius, Cabu, Wolinski, Elsa Kayat, Bernard Maris, Charb, and Mustafa, our corrector, they were also innocents, and they were just people who wanted to treat serious subjects with a sense of humor. But since they have been killed, people gathered from everywhere in France, and we had 4 million people demonstrating in France to say, "Je suis Charlie." Actually, "Je suis Charlie" doesn't mean sharing our editorial line or being or agreeing with every single word written in Charlie Hebdo. Being Charlie just means that those people were against the fact that guns answer to pens, that someone use a weapon against someone who only use his pen to write or to draw. But after that, people continued to say that we deserve that. We continued to receive very serious death threats, and now let me tell you about my own experience. I am not a cartoonist, and when I write about Islam, I write about it just like when I write about any other subject. I am a French journalist, and I respect the French law. I consider that in the heart of Paris, I work under the French law and not the Sharia law. Charlie Hebdo had many trials with religious representatives. Actually, more than 11 trials with the Catholic Church in France, and 1 trial with Muslim associations. No one of them could win a single trial against Charlie Hebdo, because in the French law, Charlie Hebdo respected the rules of the French law, the rules of the freedom of speech in France. In France, it's not like in the United States. In French, racist speech is not considered as an opinion. It is punished by law, by the law. So if Charlie Hebdo has racist speech, be sure that the French justice would have condemned Charlie Hebdo for that, but it never happened. So after that, those who abandoned the idea to take us to court because they understood that we have nothing, that we respect the law and that we respect our profession, our ethics as journalists, even if we make jokes, stopped trying to take us to court, and they took their weapons to shut our mouths. After what happened, we worked with my survivor colleagues on that issue, that was published the 18th of January that the media called the survivors issue. And on the cover of that issue, you can see Muhammad, a Prophet Muhammad with a tear on his eyes saying, "Je suis Charlie Hebdo, everything is forgiven." Actually, for us, it was a message of forgiveness because we felt that we really need to forgive the Kouachi brothers, because if we don't forgive them, I don't think we can one day recover after this horrible massacre they committed in our office. But if my colleagues have been killed, for us the nightmare started after that. The 18th January, I received a huge amount of insults and death threats, but okay, let's say as a freedom fighter in Morocco, I am used to that kind of death threats, that we will kill you, bitch, etc. I don't take it seriously, but one among them was very serious. It was a letter from ISIS state, very targeted, telling me, "You escaped by miracle our glorious attack in Paris, where your brothers in atheism, the journalists of Charlie Hebdo, have been killed because you were spending your holiday in Morocco. But if our lions were martyrs, we still have other lions who have an eye on you. And we swear to you that we will not close our eyes before we separate your head from your body." The same day, a video was published on YouTube by a group calling itself Anonymous Islamic Youth. And there is a speech about Islam, religion of peace and love, but the law of Sharia is clear. Anyone insults the Prophet, and I have to precise that I insulted no one. I criticized things, I criticized the religion and expressed my freedom of speech about that. So everyone insults the Prophet deserves to be killed. So Zineb El Rhazoui, you are condemned to death soon. They didn't precise when exactly. A few weeks later, in February, I received the most violent attack against me. It was a public campaign on Twitter with 2 hashtags in Arabic. The first hashtag was saying, "The duty to kill Zineb El Rhazoui to avenge the Prophet." And the second hashtag said, "Locate Zineb El Rhazoui to kill her." It was shared more than 7,500 times by several ISIS profiles, of course anonymous profiles that you can't reach. They gave the theological justification why I have to be killed. They also gave the different ways to execute me. So if you don't have a bullet or a bomb, just isolate me, break my head with big stones, or cut my throat, or burn me, or at least burn my house. They also unveiled the address where my husband works in Morocco. And they published his photos saying that only an apostate can marry an apostate. He had to leave his job after that, and he had to quit Morocco. And one of his colleagues in his company was arrested. She is jailed now in Casablanca because she participated to that campaign. They also they made serious attempts to locate me in Paris. She must be here, she must be here. And those threats were taken very seriously by the French police. So today I live under permanent police protection in Paris, and also when I can travel to countries like Holland or Norway. But for me, it's definitely finished. I can't go report anymore in Afghanistan or in Libya or maybe in my own country in Morocco. So now in the heart of Paris, journalists, and I am not the only one among the team of Charlie Hebdo, live with heavy police protection. It means that our freedom of speech is really threatened. Several events, several exhibitions were cancelled in Europe, in Belgium or in France because of security reasons. Because today we are facing a monster without face, and this monster who kills today in Paris because you depicted the Prophet He is the same monster who kills in Libya, in Nigeria, in Syria, and in Iraq, and he kills because you are drinking a beer, because you are not covering your hair, or because you have a short skirt, or just because you are gay or Christian. We have to understand what we are facing. And here I come to answer the question, is it worth the price is it worth to pay the price for freedom of speech? Actually, our publication, my newspaper, paid a very heavy price, a very expensive price for its freedom of speech. But we knew before it happened, we knew that we were targeted, we knew that we may be attacked, but we could change nothing to our way of working. If we could negotiate with our editorial line, if we could abandon our right to speak and work freely, we would have done it before this massacre happens. But we couldn't do it. All of those who were killed among my colleagues, they knew they were risking their life in working in Charlie Hebdo, but they continue to work in Charlie Hebdo. So today, for me personally, it is impossible to abandon the struggle and the ideas and the values why they have been killed. For me, it is very important, and for all those who felt solidarity with Charlie Hebdo, for all of us, we must understand that we shouldn't let the terrorists win this war. We shouldn't let them put the rules of the game, impose their rules of the game with weapons, and that journalists who have been killed mustn't have been killed for nothing. So, of course, I am ready to pay the price, and I invite all of you to be ready to pay the price, because the more we are, the less expensive the price is. Thank you very much.
Very much, Zineb. I'm just underlining the fact that, of course, it was PEN International and ICORN together that invited you to this conference, and we are very, very glad that you are here. We have the possibility to have some questions from the floor. Elizabeth and Anne will hand the microphones. And please, but we have to insist that we are not inviting you to speeches, hopefully not comments, but really questions for Zineb. So please, raise up your hand and you will be able to ask some questions to Zineb.
Hello, I'm Jane from Scottish PEN. I just want to ask you a very human question. What is it like living with heavy police protection? How does that affect your normal life?
Of course it affects the normal life. It means, you know, since the 8th of January, I am homeless. I have to move from an address to another. I sleep in friends' sofas, or just when my friends go to spend the weekend somewhere, I go to their apartment, or I go to different hotels. Now I became a specialist in the Paris hotels. I know all the good addresses. So I've never spent more than 7 days in the same address since then. And it also means that you can't just go buy bread normally. It means also that when you go somewhere at night and you are hungry, you have to organize how you are going to eat. You cannot order also because there is a police, and so everything is complicated. But the most complicated is to continue to work, because you have to earn your living and you have to continue practicing your profession, your occupation, and this is very difficult. So in a way, I can say that the Kouachi brothers and their terrorist ideology could at least, they could of course kill my colleagues, but they could at least impose to us the fact to think again about how we will continue to do our job. So of course daily life is not easy, but today I'm trying to give a sense to all that and to reinvent a new life in these new conditions.
Thank you. And there, please.
Solomon from.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Solomon from Pain, Ethiopia. I admire your courage, actually, very much. And my question is, what must be done, against IS? In your opinion, what should the world should do?
Actually, as a journalist, I can tell you that I feel that I don't understand what's happening in this part of the world. I asked many of my colleagues from different countries, do you really understand the ISIS thing? Do you really understand what's happening in this area of the world? And all of them told me, no, we have many questions and no answer to those questions. I think that we as journalists, as writers, as artists, as cartoonists, we have a pedagogic duty. We have a role to play, the role of explaining to people what is life, what is democracy, what is freedom of speech, what is racism and what is not racism, what is a hatred speech and what is not a hatred speech. What are the values that we want to share in a free world where we can all live with the same duties and the same rights and the same chance to be safe and to be free to think what we want to think and to express what we want to express. This is our duty. I think against guys like Daesh, like ISIS guys, sorry, in French we say Daesh, in Arabic actually we say Daesh. Against ISIS guys, those who are killing children, those who are destroying art and history, I think armies should talk. I don't know if actually they may listen to you or to me if we talk, but we can still talk to those among our youth here in Europe, in North Africa and in America, those who think about joining this war machine. We can still talk to them and tell them that they are mistaken and that there is other horizons, life horizons instead of death horizons for them.
My name is Yosef Shongin. I'm from International Pen. I have a question to you. We all know that it's a lot of young, especially young Muslims and young other people who agree with you, who are also upset and who would like to do something intellectually, even religiously, to oppose these fanatics. Do you have any advice to them? I mean, I guess that your life is you're very much alone. To be alone is also very difficult.
My advice is that this crisis that we are facing is a kind of intelligence crisis. There is a lack of intelligence. When I talk about intelligence, I'm not talking about secret services. I'm talking about intelligence in the literal way. Here in Europe, we tried with the Charlie Hebdo team to fight certain smoke screens that the most fanaticals among us try to settle in our minds. And this is why, actually, we were attacked. Why the hell? Why when a white person criticizes Christianism, we call that an anti-clerical. We don't call that a Christianophobe, then racist against the white race. But why the hell when someone who is coming from the Muslim culture criticizes his own the laws that were oppressing his freedoms as a citizen of a Muslim country, why we call that an Islamophobe? If anyone today in Europe criticizes Islam, they tell him, you are an Islamophobe, then you are a racist. But actually, people like me, I came to ask myself, why usually those who have a contract on their head, those who have fatwas, why very often they come from the Muslim world? You have several examples. Salman Rushdie, Taslima Nasreen, Nawal al-Saadawi, the Egyptian feminist. You have Kamal Daoud, the Algerian writer. You have Walid al-Husseini, the Palestinian blogger. You have Sheikh al-Mkhitir, the Mauritanian blogger, etc., etc. Because actually people like us are the living contradiction to that hidden racist speech that want to shut our mouths to not criticize Islam. Let me explain it a bit more. Actually, in the Muslim countries, in the countries where Islam is a religion of state, where it has the power, those radicals, if you criticize their dogmas, they have legal tools to shut your mouth. They just take you to jail. They whip you as they did with Raif Badawi, the Saudian blogger, or they just beat you somewhere and you cannot complain, you can't do nothing. But in democracies and in secular countries where they have the right to exist as fundamentalists due to this secularism or to democracy, they use those values to exist as radicals, but they have no legal tool to shut our mouths. Because they understand those civilizations paid a heavy price to have that freedom. So the only way for them to shut off all critics is to accuse people of being Islamophobe, then racist. So when you are like me, when you are called Zineb or Muhammad or Kamal, it is a bit difficult to accuse you of being racist. So that's why people like me they must be killed. Okay? So, but actually, I think that there is no reason that allows me to think, to have this way of thinking, but not you. We are not supposed to think, to have convictions adapted to our genetics. We are all allowed to share the same values and same ideas. So, in the one hand, you have those radicals who spread that speech, and in the other hand, you have people who don't want to be accused of being racist. So they say, okay, we have some values as Westerners, we are for equality between men and women, but we can kind of admit that those people don't respect those values because they are different. It means that it's a way to consider that because you come from a certain area in the world, or because you were born in a culture, you are condemned to be ruled by your tradition. So it means that that people cannot share the same values. It means that because you were born Muslim, you are not capable of sharing the universal values of freedom and of brotherhood between everyone and equality between everyone. Is not this exactly racism? This is exactly racism. So it is very important to fight this idea, because this idea is one of the most dangerous against the freedom of speech of those who want to legitimately criticize their religion.
Thank you. I think we have only time for one more question, please.
Well, thank you very much, Zainab. I'm very proud of you, your courage, and we really feel with you.
Please present yourself.
And then Awad, Palestine section. It's really hard to talk about such an issue. The question of Islam as a culture, as identity, and the question of the parties that was created by the big powers in order to destruct the culture and to destruct the people and make crimes, not only with Charlie Hebdo. As you're aware, the crimes are taking place in different parts of the Arab world. So the question is, we are in a very sensitive question. What is the Islamic culture that is respected and we adhere to and we committed to? And what is the ISIS and the Daesh and all these created power that is destructing the identity as well as destructing such a nice lady, courage lady, and Charlie Hebdo and other organizations and other magazines in the world? The question is, to what extent freedom of expression is absolute? The other question is, how can we adhere? How can we combine between the norms and values of the people and the freedom of expression? To what extent? Because it's a very sensitive question. After Charlie Hebdo, if you allow me to speak.
Very short.
Can I? After Charlie Hebdo, there was in the emails, thousands of emails of ideas of Arabs, Islams, and international writers and intellectuals, talking about the religion, and every people are, committed to their religion as it is, as basics. And the other kind of religion, the fanaticism, which all of us stand against.
Please end up with a question, please.
Okay, and my question for her, my lady, I hope you will always be protected and we all with you. How can we try to respect the norms and the values of the other, as well as to have our freedom of expression to be protected? Thanks.
I'll try to answer shortly. I've heard about a new notion, particularly in the United States, now something called safe space. The safe space is the right to not be offended. So many people, they talk about what they call the safe space, the right to not be offended. Actually, I've always been believing that if you don't like an intellectual content, you have the right to walk away, to turn off the television, or to not buy it. Don't buy it. But actually, I just have to say that the right to not be offended doesn't exist. The right of free speech exists, but the right to not be offended, I've never heard about it before. And I just add something. I just want to say that I don't know what is exactly Islamic culture, or it has, of course, several, we can write hundreds of books about that, but what I know is that the ugliest caricature of Islam that I have ever seen is the one made by the terrorists, and not the one that was made by my people.
Thank you very, very much, Zineb. We are very glad to have you among us with your colleagues and friends throughout the conference. Thank you very, very much.